Hello, 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 hello. How's everybody this fine Monday morning, or whatever afternoon, or whatever evening you might be looking at this? Hope all's well. Hope you're staying safe, healthy, happy, and in love. Healthy, happy, and in love. Wouldn't that be a nice way to be every day? I know I am. Well, yeah, I am. I am. I have my issues, but happy, healthy, and in love is what my sponsor taught me. I got to remember that today. Got to remember that. Well, we're going to get right into it today. Enough of what's going on in the world. We can't change that. We cannot change what's happening out there. All we can do is let God do the work because He's the one in control. We are not. And we've got to remember that because too often we think we're the ones that control the outcome of everything. And the reality is that God is the one that's in control. Left to our own devices, we get in trouble. That's just how it is. And it's been proven to me over and over myself and with others. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to continue our conversation on finding your authentic self. And this is, we might go a couple more Mondays over the month, but that's fine. I want to make sure we get a lot of this covered. It's a pretty important chapter. It could be a really important chapter in your life as well because are you living your authentic life? Or are you living your life as somebody else told you you should be living it? And it's the last chapter of my book, and it's one that helped me a lot. So today we're going to get into part 2, finding your authentic self. I'm going to start with the quote I put at the beginning of this chapter called, "Owning your own story can be hard, but not really as difficult as spending your lives running from it." Think about that one. Running your own story can be hard. Owning your own story can be hard. Speaking your truth about what you like in your life can be hard and difficult because many of us were taught our voice didn't matter. Didn't matter what we said. But not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Because we're constantly running, chasing. Because we can't, our voice doesn't matter, so we're trying to find happiness and peace and other things. We're constantly running from what God wants our life to be. And a lot of us aren't even aware that that's what we're doing. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy. The experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Belonging and joy and love. You have to be extremely vulnerable in life. And a lot of us are taught, especially as men, vulnerability is not a good thing. Women, vulnerability is not a good thing. It gets us in trouble. We open up, we're vulnerable, people take advantage of us. So we need to embrace those vulnerabilities that we have and understand that people are going to hurt us. People are going to take advantage of us. But that doesn't mean we quit living our life. It doesn't mean we quit being authentic about who we are and about our vulnerabilities. Only when we are brave enough or to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. We have to embrace the darkness of our life. I had to embrace the abuse. I had to embrace the parts about me, the darkness that I did not like. And it was when I embraced that that the light started shining in. And when I embrace it with that light, I learned to love it because it's part of who I am today. The darkness in my life, the abuse. Hey, Adam, that darkness is part of who I am today. It made me the man that I am today. And I'm grateful. I say this all the time. I'm grateful for all the abuse that happened to me in my life. Because if it wasn't for that abuse, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be the man. I wouldn't be the husband. I wouldn't be the father, the grandfather, the mentor, the teacher. I wouldn't be that person today if I wouldn't have gone through everything I went through. God has a plan for our life, and whether we like it or not, and I didn't like it, it was there for a purpose. So I'll read it one more time. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. And that comes from Brene Brown, who she does a lot of really good work. She does a lot of work on shame, which this is part of. You can Google her, you can watch her on YouTube, and I would suggest doing that. She has a lot of really good information. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue where we left off last week, talking about defining ourselves, which is different. And kind of where we ended up was that, but even here in America, right here in America, there are a limited number of ways that we define ourselves. There are a limited number of ways that we define ourselves. And the definition of self begins when we are children. When we're young children. Society teaches us that we're smart, or we're athletic, we're sensitive, we're strong, and mama's boy or a bully. Society teaches that. Our friends teach us that. Our parents teach us that. In school, we might branch out just a little bit. Then maybe in school we learned that, well, I can be a jock, I can be preppy, I can be a punk, or a nerd. And those are just a few of the archetypes that we can learn to portray or become, so to speak. And it might just be for a while, but you might be trying to find yourself through all these different avenues and all these different, a jock, a preppy, a punk. I was a jock for a while, and then it wasn't that I didn't love baseball, wasn't that I didn't love sports, because I do, but then I switched over to the surfers, because the surfers I got along with. Surfing, it could just be me in the water. I didn't have to worry about everybody else. I was safe when I was in the water. Nobody could bother me there. And then naturally, as we get older, we move into the working world. It's the careers that we have. They define us. We're defined by our careers. I was just having a couple conversations last night and this morning about how people that what they do define who they are, to the point that they forget about their families and everything else. And it's important that we have a career and that we show up to work every day, and that we do, provide for our family. But we can't neglect our family in doing so. The conversation I had this morning, I was telling this person I was talking with that I ran a very successful construction business for 20 years. And my family was not neglected because of it. My family always was number one. I always made time for my children, for my wife. I was at almost every one of my boys and my daughter's baseball games or soccer games. We go camping, we go fishing, we go hiking. Business is business, and I took care of it. When I come home, I was with my boys. I took care of my family. People would often ask me when I was headed off for a week to go fishing or hunting or on vacation, what, you're leaving again? It's like the third time this year. And I go, and your point is what? I'm working hard. I have a family that needs me. They need their father. My wife needs her husband. My career, I'm not living to work. I'm working to live. And when I get back, my business will still be here, and I have a good staff and good crews. I don't have to worry about nothing. And if something goes wrong, I'll fix it when I get back. So I didn't let my career define me. And right now, in today's world, in today's atmosphere, I can guarantee you there's Two stats that I just heard. One is that in the first 4 months of this year, there's been more suicide attempts than we have in a year. And then the next one I heard was that there's been more suicides this year so far than there's been corona deaths. So go figure. And I can guarantee you, the majority of those are because men, I'm just using men as because that's what I know, that they're so their careers define them so much, and all they know is that the only way I can be a good man is if I work hard, I bring money home for my family, food on the table, a roof over my head. The rest I don't care about, but I have to work, and if I'm not working, I'm worthless. A lot of men, they have that mentality, and thus suicide, thus an abundance of alcohol, thus domestic violence. And women aren't being excused from it because they're raised the same way, that your husband's supposed to be taking care of you. Again, I talk in general terms. There's plenty of men out there that don't let their work define them, that are doing just fine. And same thing with the wives. My wife and I were doing great. But we've had a relationship established on love and different things. We know that white collar workers are different from blue collar workers. That entrepreneurs are like this, and doctors are like that, and engineers are some third thing. So, doctor's supposed to be this way, an attorney's supposed to be this way, right? An engineer is supposed to be this. You can almost, if you know any of them, you can almost tell the demeanor of all of them is different because they fit into that category. Construction workers. I had a kid come up to me one time, and he looked at me in the face and says, "My dad says that all construction workers are nothing but dumb idiots." I said, "Whoa, really? Wow, have your dad come out here and tell me that to my face?" Now, this is several years ago, but which is a complete lie what his dad had told this kid. So you want to know what's wrong with this world. You have false narratives being told to young kids. My granddaughter has said things like, so and so's a terrible this. I'm not mentioning names, but and I go, where did you hear that from? My teacher. I go, that's a false narrative. That's a lie. That's her opinion. She shouldn't be putting that onto you. So our kids are fed these false narratives, and they believe them because they're kids. We don't give our kids a chance to develop their own mind, to develop their own thought patterns, to develop their own opinions. We feed it to them. We brainwash them almost. It's easier to conform to the normative standards of a group you want to be identified with. It's easier to do that than it is to go inside yourself and follow the beat of your own heart. Follow the beat of your own heart. Because if you follow the beat of your own heart, you might be going against the normal standards of society. Like I say, when I walked away from a 40-year career in construction, making six figures and all my bills paid. I mean all my expenses paid, and do whatever I want. People looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind. It wasn't their life; it's my life. They weren't living in my shoes. They didn't know what I was doing on a daily basis. They didn't know the things I was dealing with on a daily basis. They don't know the hours and the times I spent in my office crying, going, "What am I going to do? How am I going to make this work? I don't want to lose everything I work for." So people make assumptions based on what society tells them people should do, and it's wrong. I'm not you. I'm talking in general terms. I'm not nobody. Nobody, Randy, you need to do that. Really? How do you know I need to do that? Because you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I'm doing. We let society's norms define who we are, and it's so dangerous. Not all the time. Sometimes it works out okay, but it's more often than not, it's not. It's really tough. It's tough to go up against the norms, even in America. It's simple. Think of it this way. If a woman wants to work in construction, she's got to take some heat from men and women because they think of that as masculine labor. It's labor. Women picked the cotton fields back in the day. Women work in the fields today. Women do manual labor. They always have, and they still do. I did have one woman working on one of my crews one time, and she was strong enough for herself, but I told the guy, "Man, get away from her. Let her work." So people look at that different. But the fact is that a lot of heterosexual women, just because they're doing construction, doesn't mean that they're anything but heterosexual. And a lot of heterosexual women like to build stuff. I know men that like to knit. Rosie Greer, I think, was one of the biggest, one big football player, big brute of a guy. He loved to knit. So does that mean that he's gay because he likes to knit? It's something he liked to do. Or what about a man who wants to be a nurse? Or a jock who loves to sing in the choir? Think about it. King David. He loved the battlefield, but he also loved to be in his castle and playing music and writing poetry. All right? In today's society, somebody that would write poetry or a man that likes dance or a man that they would be made fun of. They'd be looked down upon by a lot of people. Why? Because they don't fit the societal norm for a man or a woman? Come on. It can even be hard for a child to go into a different profession than what his parents want him to be. It's like I had this discussion also with a gentleman, and I've seen this in recovery centers. These young doctors and lawyers or whatever, these high-level people, they're mad at their dad. Why? Because they forced them into being a doctor, an attorney, whatever it is, that they never really wanted to be, but a lot of them had a trust fund hung over their head. And so they're kind of forced into doing what they wanted to do. Now, there's also a lot that it all worked out for them. But what if we were to take that approach? Let's look at that situation, not that approach. Let's look at that situation with a different approach. Let's say you sit down with your son or your daughter. Say, look at our family history, our family genealogy. I'm a doctor. Your grandfather was a doctor. Your great-grandfather was a doctor. It's just kind of been the genealogy of our family history. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you need to be a doctor. I want you to think about what I want you to do. Would I like you to be a doctor to continue the legacy? Yes, I would. But I'm not going to tell you that you have to be. Whatever you want to be in life, I want you to be. It's your life, not mine. And just know that no matter what you choose to do, I'm still your father or your mother. I'm still going to love you very much. It's not going to change my opinion. What a different approach. I went through that with my son, not my son from my first marriage, but Garrett from Kathy. Great baseball player, and we supported him all the way through college and started playing semi-pro football. And we went back to see him play in Wyoming. And after the first doubleheader, he came up to me and he says, "Dad," he goes, "I need to talk to you." I go, "What's up, son?" He goes, "Dad, this is it. I'm walking after the season. I'm done playing ball." And I said, "What? Excuse me?" He goes, "Dad, you always told me," and this phrase came from Coach Murphy at ASU, but he goes, "Dad, you always told me that when you quit loving the game of baseball and you quit having fun on the ball field, it was time to walk." He goes, "You told that to me, Dad." He goes, it's time to walk." Was I disappointed? Yeah, I was, because he was a really, really good ball player. But he had some very good points why he wanted to quit playing. And what I told him was, I said, Garrett, as long as you're sure this is what you want to do, as long as this is what you want to do, I'll support you. All I want for you, son, all I simply want for you is to be happy. If you want to be a shoe salesman, just be the best shoe salesman that you can be. That's all I care about. It's your life, not mine, son. So many parents, especially fathers, live vicariously through their sons to the point to where they push their sons so far away from them that their sons want nothing to do with them later. We can want for our children, but let them be who they are. Let them be who God designed them to be. I wanted to be a fireman, and that was stripped from me by my mother and my stepfather when I was 18. You'll never pass the test. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what it's about. I was heartbroken. Even at 18, they were still influencing me in a very negative way. See, we don't allow a lot of leeway in archetypes. And it can take an almost unbelievable amount of personal strength and mental discipline to buck the rules. Qualities that are not exactly an abundant supply for children who are being sexually abused. Strength, courage, and mental discipline to buck the rules. And those are qualities that sexual abuse victims just do not have. We're more compliant than anything else because we feel like we're worthless and nothing we do is correct. So when you go to buck those rules, as I did when I started my own business, it was hard as hell. You struggle, you fight, you battle. You got people fighting for you. You still don't believe in yourself. It doesn't matter who other than your parents or caregivers are supporting you. They're not your caregivers or your parents. It's a battle. And you just got to keep fighting. It's hard. It's a lot easier to suppress a part of ourselves in order to conform than it is to buck society and follow the dictates of our hearts. It's a lot harder. And I talked about walking away from my business and people looking at me like, what, are you crazy? So it's easier to just suppress ourselves and say, okay, well, maybe you're right. And I'll just keep pushing away at this, and maybe I won't lose everything, and maybe the economy will pick up, and neither this, and maybe that, and maybe that. Instead, I made a conscious decision. I wasn't forced into it. I talked to some very, very trusted friends of mine that knew me and knew how successful I had been and what I had built, and also knew what I had to lose if I didn't make the right choice. Hardest thing I ever did in my life was walk away from that business. 20 years I built that business. But it's also the best thing that I ever did. You know, we have to remember that wanting to fit in and being accepted is a human trait. I mean, it's just not for survivors. I believe that everybody wants to fit in and wants to be accepted. But to what extent and what are you sacrificing to fit in and being accepted? I before I had the affair in 2004, I sacrificed a lot in my family when I had that affair because I wanted to fit in with a bunch of very successful business people out here in the valley, which I fit in with, right? And then I had the affair like everybody else was doing, thought it was cool, and I paid a heavy price for it. See, but the urge is so strong that being shunned or ostracized by one's social group has been considered one of the most severe forms of punishment by human societies throughout history. You got to stand up for a survivor who's been shunned and made fun of and punished for most of their lives for thinking one way or believing something that, it's hard for them to conform when they're to a different way when they're being made fun of, when they're being punished um, by the human societies that they grow up like the people that I was following. It's just easier to just jump on board. I want to be right. I don't want to look like I was a loser bailing out on everybody. Who was I bailing out on? Myself. Who was I bailing out on? My wife, my children, my family. And thank God, by the grace of God, I have a wife and family that is so forgiving, so loving, so caring. They took me back. You got to remember that even Socrates, okay, who was told he has to leave Athens and never come back. You're done. You're banned from Athens. He chose poison over having to leave Athens forever. He chose death. That's how powerful this is. Even most nonconformists to the norms of some group, even most nonconformists conform to the norms of some groups. See, today, like I said, acceptance is a human trait. And I go to church, my wife and I celebrate recovery, do a lot of different things. Outside of that, I cycle, and I got a group of friends that outside of all my recovery stuff, that we just fit with each other. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. We just all get along. We all show up a couple, 3, 4 days a week to ride for a couple, 3 hours, and have some coffee, and then go away. We're all different. A lot of us have businesses. Some of us are nurses. Some of us they're like me. Yeah, I'm a pastor amongst all of them, and they all drink. I don't drink. It doesn't matter. They don't judge me. I don't judge them. They're great people. If you think about it, that all these groups, they all have different rules you have to conform to. The punk rockers, they rebel against society at large, but conform to the dictates of a smaller subgroup. So they conform to the subgroup of punk rockers, but they rebel against the larger group of society. Hippies, back in the day, they had their own rules for acceptance, and so on. The problem is that to truly follow one's unique, authentic self is moment-to-moment experience. Encourage and self-awareness. Are you courageous enough to walk away from the things you know aren't you? To maybe not be accepted by anybody for a while? To maybe feel like you're all alone? To gain self-awareness? Gain self-love, self-appreciation? That journey, believe me, at times makes you feel very, very alone. But the difference between that and caving into the societal norms, the rewards are very, very extraordinary. Very extraordinary. My life is beyond my wildest dreams. All I have to do is start drinking again, and it'll all be gone. And I know that for a fact. And even with these extraordinary rewards in a lot of ways, it's still very difficult because it goes against our genetic programming. Remember, a lot of our beliefs handed down from generation to generation, or in our DNA, they're in our genetics. And so we're fighting that as much as we're fighting society. It's hard. We all have that inherent need to be accepted by others. But we might not be. And we got to be okay with that. Why is your need so great to be accepted by somebody that just walked into your life that you know nothing about? Why does everybody have to accept you? The one thing I've learned, my pastor says that, as a pastor, a lot of times people get up and they walk out of the church. He had to learn not to take it personally. Yeah, one guy that he knew really well that did that, and he was preaching one day on money, and the guy walked out of the church. Pastor's shaking his head for 2 weeks. He didn't see the guy, didn't come back to church. And he come to find out he had a medical condition that hit him that morning in church, and he was taking care of himself for this 2 weeks. But we have to learn not to take things personally. I know that for myself from really, really young age, I tried to fit in with whoever I could. What I didn't understand until recently is that I didn't have to conform to be accepted. Man, that's good right there, because I didn't have to conform to all these people to be accepted. It's the group that I ride with. I don't have to conform with a lot of the things that they do. They're all really good people. They're respectful people. They're very respected people in our community, so on and so forth. But I don't have to conform to some of the things they do in order for me to be accepted over there. They just accept Randy because Randy's Randy. Randy's a nice guy. Randy gets along with people. Randy respects people. They respect people. There's no conform. I don't tell them they got to conform to my beliefs as a Christian, as a pastor. I don't put that on them. They don't have to conform to what I believe and what I want. We're just people, and we accept each other who they are. It doesn't really matter. And that's where the world's got to get back to. What's happening, what's funny too, is that the ironic part about all of this is the more authentic I come with myself, about myself, right, the more acceptance that I find from all the people I encounter. I had a person tell me, I was in a group one day, they go, Randy, we don't know Randy as a businessman. We don't know that part of you. We know you here. We know you as his helper. And that's what we like about you. That's what we love. So the more authentic you can become, you'll find out, one, who's your real friends, because they'll just kind of peel off. You don't want them in your life anyways. But the more authentic you come yourself, the more people are going to start accepting you. Why? Because you're authentic. Because you're loving, you're caring, you're kind, you're compassionate, you're accepting, you're non-judgmental. Oh yeah, we have conversations. Believe me, we have. Hey Albert, what's up, man? We have conversations about things. Absolutely we do. Because it's life. But we don't destroy people. We don't destroy people in the midst of doing it. You know, people are people. Let them be who they are. Accept them for what they are. Okay? So when we find our authentic self, conformity actually in the past was celebrated in true individuality. Right? So if you're conforming, people would celebrate that because you're part of the group now. And now you're a true individual within that group. But when it deviated from the American social norms, right? When it deviated from those norms, then the punishment came in. So as long as you were conforming to a society or whatever group you wanted to be a part of, whatever it was, then you were celebrated, and you were known to have true individuality. There you go. That's what I want to see there. Now you're being your true self, destroying property, protesting, rioting, doing whatever you're doing. Yeah, we're going to celebrate that. Tens of thousands of people are doing that. But if you deviate from that, then you're punished. It's taking place right now. That statement is taking place right now in the streets of America. Those that deviate from what these rioters are saying or doing are punished. Their stores are being looted. Cars are being burned. You think about it. For myself, the combination of my emotional scars and from being sexually abused and my intense desires to be accepted by my peers led me to drugs and alcohol. I wasn't being accepted or approved at home. No matter what I did, I wasn't being accepted or approved in the church. So I knew if I would just take this drink, do a little cocaine, smoke a little weed, do a little mutt, whatever it was, I was being accepted by peers. At least I was being accepted and not judged. Yeah. Even though I knew, and I really believe that all people do, that abusing drugs and alcohol was illegal, morally wrong, and a form of unkindness to myself, self-abuse, destroying my body. My grandmother told me that when my father died, before he died, he said he told my grandmother to tell me and my brother, tell my boys never to consume or take anything that's going to hurt their body. And I didn't listen. I did as many drugs and alcohol as I could, right? Because even though I knew that drinking, drugging was self-destructive, I didn't care because I felt better when I did it. It made me feel better for the time. I had that moral compass, which I believe that we all have. I really honestly believe that we all have a moral compass. The Big Book says that inside every man, woman, and child is the innate knowing of God. I'm paraphrasing that, but it's right there in the Big Book. And if God is in us, then we have a moral compass within us, because God's going to give us, he's going to let us know when we're doing something wrong. It's up to us to make the right decision, because he gives us the free will. Right? When we're unkind to others or even to ourselves, we feel the consequences of that unkindness in our spirit. I don't know about anybody else, but when I did things wrong, man, was I convicted. And a lot of people, they won't admit it. Nah, man, it's just part of the people. And then I've talked to people about that little voice, that little inner knowing, and I would ask them, before you went out and did something that you knew was going to be wrong, did you have that little voice inside of you telling you not to do this? That if you did this, something bad was going to happen? And every person I asked that question to, their answer was yeah. And you did it anyways, huh? Yeah. And they'd come back and I paid the price. I always felt bad when I was being mean and hateful to others, especially my wife. Really bad. It's like today when I'm kind and compassionate to myself and others, I feel peaceful and content. I love Kathy and I. We work with our couples, and I love working with them. And sometimes they're struggling. Well, Kathy and I will sit and guide them the best we can, and give them some hope and some healing. And when they walk out or they walk away, it just feels good. It's like, well, okay, I feel good because they usually walk away feeling better than they did when they come into us. And that is so rewarding and so peaceful and so content, not being mean to people. And here's the reality of it. It's actually really simple, because being a good person is a spiritual and universal principle that we must uphold at all costs. The Bible tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Being a good person is a spiritual and universal principle that we must uphold at all costs. And look at it's in Christians, it's in the Buddhist stuff, Native American Indians, all right? It's almost in every religion. That is a universal principle, just like forgiveness is. Basically, we don't need to be told to be kind, because deep within each and every one of us, our spirits will tell us when we are being unkind to ourselves or to others. See, I used to think that being authentic was about telling the truth, even being brutally honest or not being a slave to social trends or fashions. I've come to learn that it involves much more. Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, specifically the chapter entitled The Domestication and the Dream of the Planet, has been indispensable in my search for my authenticity. I'm going to read right from it right here. According to Ruiz, our dreams are formed by the rules of our parents and society. I'm going to read that again. Our dreams are formed by the rules of our parents and society. We are born with the capacity to learn to dream, and the humans who lived before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams. The outside dream has so many rules that when a human is born, we hook the child's attention and introduce these rules into his or her mind. The outside dream uses mom and dad, the schools, and religion to teach us how to dream. I was born into this world without getting to choose who my parents would be. God was the one that created that. I was given a name without a choice. I was told what church and which God I was to believe in without a choice. I was told which schools I would go to, which college I would attend, and which career I should pursue. The dreams of society and my parents' dreams were already forming their idea of me even before I was born. According to Ruiz, our grandparents raised our parents according to society's dreams during our grandparents' generation. These generational things handed down from generation to generation. Our parents then raised us according to the dreams of their generation, and so on. The laws, the rules, the beliefs, and social events of our society combine to form an aggregate social dream, which is then passed on from generation to generation. And those that work with me, I talk about this all the time. Everything is handed down from generation to generation. The dreams may change a little over the decades, but the idea that success is equivalent to the degree to which we conform to the social dream remains the same. The dreams may change a little over the decades, but the idea that success is equivalent to the degree of which we conform to the social dream remains the same. One of the ways this affects survivals of sexual abuse in particular is that our overarching social dream is only now just beginning to deal with male childhood sexual abuse. And that's the hard part. Because that abuse has kept us stuck in the dreams of our grandparents, great-grandparents, and parents. And so we become adults and we start dealing with our abuse, sexual abuse, and now we're trying to become this authentic person who God created us to be in the first place, not who society did. For many of this means that in addition to the burden of the abuse itself, we have to hide our secret because it deviates from the norms of society. See, I'm one of the men in this world, and I'm proud that I speak up about abuse. I was sexually, physically, emotionally, spiritually abused, and I'm going to tell the world because they need to hear it. They don't need to hear my story. I'm one of probably 1 million men in this nation alone that have been sexually abused. 1 in 4 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18, and that is the world. Not just here in Coachella Valley, not in California, not in the United States. That is in the world. So you do the math. And actually the reality is it's probably closer to 1 and 2. Okay? But if we talk about that secret definitely deviates from the normal society dream. It's sad. Just sweep that underneath the rug. Go on, move on. Get a job, go to school, you'll be fine. Look at the streets right now. Tell those kids they're going to be okay. Where were their parents? Where was their mom? Where was their dad? Everything that I believed in for a long time was in the context of that dream. What we consider beautiful and what we consider ugly, or what we think acceptable, what we think of as acceptable or unacceptable, are all based on the particular flavor of the dream to which our family unit subscribes. And think about that and digest that one. What we consider to be beautiful and what we consider ugly. You know, what's beautiful to one person is ugly to another. I wonder why. Who told them that? So the question, who told you that? Oh, that color is ugly. Oh, where'd you hear that from? Maybe to them it is ugly, but then again, maybe it's something they heard growing up. Or, oh, all dogs are mean because mom got bit by a dog when she was a kid, so all dogs are mean. So the kid grows up saying all dogs are mean. Well, who told you that lie? We're not allowed to find things out ourselves. What's acceptable or unacceptable? The reality is that you need to take unacceptable out, because the reality is that we have to accept everything. We have to accept everything that happens in this world. We don't have a choice. We don't have to approve of it. But it's either acceptable or unacceptable. Come on. Not accepting it means we're trying to change it or we're fighting it. We can't do that. We're not in control. So everything must be acceptable. When we're saying no one would embrace someone else, usually an adult, we are taught to say yes. When saying no one would embarrass someone else, usually an adult, we are taught to say yes. Our voice. Saying yes when we mean no is an absolute lie. Saying no when we mean yes is an absolute lie. You're lying to yourself, you're lying to everybody. So what happens is that we learn to preempt the embarrassment of others by guessing which behavior we can present and which behaviors would be the most pleasing and least offensive. So you walk in a room and you walk in and maybe you know the group that you're going to, and you go, okay, I got to put on this hat today. Why can't you just be who you are instead of putting on a hat because you're going into this group of people and they expect you to act this way and talk this way? Is that who you really are, or do you even know who you really are? All right? Just be yourself. And if we're our authentic self, the person that God made us to be, it's going to be hard for people not to accept us. And if they don't, that's on them. They're lost, not mine. So what we're doing when we do that is we turn into social chameleons until we forget who we originally were. Half of us don't even know who that is. I love this part. I want you to listen to this. When a child turning cartwheels just for the joy of it receives attention and approval for those cartwheels, he or she begins to perform them in order to receive that approval. When a child turning cartwheels just for the joy of it receives attention and approval for those cartwheels, he or she then begins to perform them in order to receive that approval. But cartwheels only get so much approval. Eventually the trick becomes old and the adults become less exuberant, but the child has forgotten that originally he or she was happy just doing the cartwheels. you imagine that? A kid just doing cartwheels in the park all by himself. Maybe mom and a couple of his friends are watching him, and he just being carefree. Watching my granddaughters do it, they're just being carefree. Papa, watch this, and they're falling on their feet. They're doing whatever they're doing. Then all of a sudden, that girl coming down and doing these phenomenal cartwheels in the park, and everybody's yeah, 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 yeah. And all she's got all this attention, and eventually the attention stops. What am I doing wrong? How come people aren't acknowledging me anymore? What happened here? And there's a lot that this entails. There's a whole lot that goes on with this. The child forgets that originally she was doing the cartwheels just to be happy. In these little ways, trick by trick, we become dependent on the approval of other people for our happiness. And if we don't get it, we feel we're worthless. In fact, is that our happiness? The fact is that our happiness actually lies in our own hands. But since we started getting approval for our cartwheels, we have forgotten how to find it by ourselves. It's our job in life not to just get by. We owe it to ourselves to thrive and live joyful, prosperous, loving lives. Once again, performing cartwheels just because they bring us joy. I'll go to a park. I can't do cartwheels. I'm too old, but I find one of them hills, right? I lay on my side, tuck in. I just start rolling down the hill, laughing all the way down, just because. And I laugh all the way down the hill. It's fun to do. So next week we'll continue. We'll go to part 3 of Finding Your Authentic Self. I'm going to be talking next week about understanding the true self. There's going to be an excerpt. I'm pretty much just going to, by Dr. Alan Berger, and it is really, 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 really good. I'm really eye-opening. So we'll pick up there next week, same time, same channel. Guys, visit my life coaching page, changeyourlifestorynow.com. We do marriage counseling. My wife and I do marriage counseling together, couples counseling. I am SIMBA certified. It is an assessment that you take pre-marriage. You can even take it afterwards. It's not psychological. It just shows you where you line up with your partner on real life stuff. It's like 99.9% accurate. All our couples that have done it have really learned a lot about each other from it, and they love it. Life coaching includes the addictions, abuse, inner healing, and spiritual healing. All that really stems around abuse of some form when you get down to the root cause of a lot of these issues. So visit the website, changeyourlifestorynow.com. Go there, fill out the contact form, and I will return I'll get back to you like as quick as I can, usually within 4 hours. Just let me know what you want, okay? You get my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within, on Amazon. You get it in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. You also get my 30-day devotional to wholeness and my workbook, the 7-day challenge, all available on Amazon. Please go to our website, courageoushealers.org, courageoushealers.org. You see what's going on, what we're doing there. It's up and coming things that's going on. Hey, if you'd like to make a one-time donation or be a monthly contributor, visit our website and click on the Donate Now tab. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so all your contributions are deductible. We need your help financially. The foundation needs your help financially. Kathy and I don't touch any of this money. It stays in the foundation. We're wanting to hire a full-time admin assistant right now. We're looking at that, amongst other things. We're trying to develop more programs, more workshops, so on and so forth. But we can't do it without your help. So please, if you find it on your heart, just $5 a month, $10 a month, one time, whatever it is, 5 to 5,000 to 50,000, 100, whatever you feel like donating. Please just click on the button and hit the donate button. You can set up a monthly contribution if you like, or just a one-time donation. Okay, and if you give us a $60 donation or more, I'll send you a signed copy of the book, Healing the Wounded Child Within. and a copy of my 30-day devotional to wholeness. Okay, you can also join me every Friday morning from 9 to 12 on 100.1 FM Radio, radio station for your life. Please join me in there. They're working on getting phone lines in there so you can call in, but right now it's just a lot of music and then some breaks in between with me talking. Okay, we do have our workshop series called Unmasking Yourself for the year right now. The next one coming up is Journey to You. It's gonna probably got postponed from June 13th because of the COVID and everything going on. Probably the end of July, first part of August. We're looking at to do that, so stay tuned. I'll get that exact date up there for you. We also have, providing that everything goes all right, September 12th, we have the presentation, I'm sorry, Secrets in Silence that we'll be doing. And we also have on December 5th, the last one for the year, be Forgiveness, right before Christmas, which is a powerful workshop. You can, I'm going to post the link for you. You can go right to the link here, and you can read about what each one of the workshops are. You can register right now for them. All you got to do is click the Register Now button. Just click the Register Now button, and it's a one-stop shop. You can pay for it, register. If you register now and something happens with the workshops, we will refund your money, or we'll just hold on to it until the workshops do go. They are going to happen. It's just a matter of this COVID stuff, and we're working on some different ways to do it. So I hope you can join us for those. I think that is it. So remember, be who God wants you to be. Don't conform to the society's norms. You can be your authentic self and still fit in. Believe me. And if people don't accept you for who you are, then you don't need to be with them anyways. Okay. And remember that if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does, and more importantly, God does. See you next Monday, 11 o'clock. Everybody have a super blessed week and be safe. Love you all. Bye-bye.